We're back with the bullshit filter. It's episode 135, recording timestamp for future generations, 3rd of July 2025. Congratulations to you,
Thank
Ray,
you. Thank you.
as a very proud American.
Yes.
Your esteemed
Yes.
president, Mr. Trump, has passed his one big, beautiful bridge bill.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
So it should be fun times ahead. It's your movie, Elon. That's what I'd be saying. Your movie,
exactly.
Elon.
See what, but what? What Trump doesn't know is that the joke's on him. I ain't got health care. So my whatever rates can't drop or get less money or whatever. So, because I can't afford it. So who looks foolish now? Hmm? Hmm? Hmm.
Are you one of the richest people who are going to have their taxes reduced by $1.5 trillion?
I could be one day with hard work, some luck, some potential. You know, if I really manifest
Some tenacity.
some testicular fortitude, I can go far. But
So
currently, no,
if it's
no,
one thing you lack, it's
or
tenacity,
testicular.
Harris.
I don't want to talk
Tenacity.
about. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not. I'm not a fighter.
Cancer.
I go into the fetal position like nobody. Just boom, just boom. I mean, there's not a lot here. It's not. It's not who I am. Anyway.
You're a lover, not a fighter. Sad news this morning. Michael Madsen, one of my favorite actors since the
Yeah.
90s,
He
passed
always had
away.
the face. He's always like, he's always, he turned that face into a career, you know, good for him.
He did.
Good for him. Anyway,
Yeah.
no, I loved him a lot. He was,
Well, not good for
no,
him that
no,
he
no,
died.
no, the
Um,
career before he died. I cannot stress that enough.
yeah,
I'm done.
yeah. Sadly, one of those actors who kind of didn't get often cast in good
Yeah.
things. He made a lot of
Yeah.
things. According to IMDb,
Good
328
God.
things he
Always
was
the bad
in.
guy.
There's another 18 coming
Oh
out.
my God. Right.
Um, yeah.
That's amazing.
But outside of Tarantino films, outside of Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill 1, Kill Bill
Right.
2, smaller roles in The Hateful Eight,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood too. But outside of those things, everything else I saw him in was kind of crap.
Yeah.
You look at
Yeah.
through his IMDb, the ratings of the things that he's been in recent years: 1.9,
Right. Like our
3.6,
ratings. Yeah.
2.7,
Yeah. Oh,
3.0.
3 point. Okay.
Like even my
What?
documentary is, I think, a 6.6 on IMDb,
Yeah.
and that insulted all of the world's
It,
Christians,
yes,
apparently.
it certainly did. Yeah.
So, Megalodon 2.8,
Oh,
Dirty Dealing 3D
I love
3.8.
that one.
Um,
Oh,
so he didn't. I don't know why. I don't know if he was perceived to be difficult, or he just wasn't good enough, or what it
right.
was. But
Hey, got
you know, I always thought he was fun. He's one of those guys who was always fun to watch, and everything, no matter how bad the
he,
role
he
or how bad
he
the
did it
film,
well.
Michael
He
Madsen
did
was
it
good.
well. Yeah. He would torture you with a knife very well. You'd be entertained. Uh, Theoretically. Yeah, no, just he was good at it.
I'm trying to remember. There's something I saw him in
Mm,
recently. It was an old thing. I'm scrolling through the IMDb here. It's probably a 90s thing that he did. Uh, I
right.
wish IMDb would let me filter on the things that are good. Donnie Brasco, he was in, which I haven't seen for a long
Right.
time, but that was,
Yeah.
I never liked it, but apparently his performance in that was
Yeah.
good. Thelma and Louise, The Doors, Kill Me Again, no. Anyway, I did see him in something not that long ago. It's like an old film where he was a bad guy chasing. Who was the main star in it? Um, I can't even remember that. Oh, Free Willy. Of course, he did Free Willy. Free Willy. It was a
The
great film.
killer whale move.
Bit of a different role for
What?
him. Yeah. He played the killer whale, and not a lot of people knew that. Just put a fat suit on.
With the look.
Played.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Killer whale with an attitude.
Well, most
He
killers
was.
do, I think, have an attitude. I don't know. Well, as far as all the films that he was in, even though most of them were bad, I mean, he's an actor, but he's a human being. He's got to pay the bills. Yeah, I'll sign it for your film. You'll pay me. I'll try to lend you my star power. And it didn't work. But the point is, he's just like everybody else. He's got bills to pay. Do you think we would really be doing the bullshit filter, knowing that we probably won't change the world if we weren't getting paid tens of thousands of dollars per episode? I say no.
Per minute. Per minute.
Before taxes. Before my taxes.
Oh, I can't find the name of this film that he was in that I watched, and it's pissing me off. But anyway, R.I.P. Michael Madsen.
Yes.
I just want to start this week's show of the Bullshit Filter by thanking all of the people on our subreddit, the Cam and Ray subreddit, who called me a Putin apologist a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
And there's this big, long thread with everyone going, yeah, Cam's a Putin apologist.
No.
Gee. Look, for those people, God bless you for having the balls to tell me you don't like what I'm doing. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But as I said to them, and I've said on this show and all of our shows, don't know how many times you've heard me say this, but if you don't like my facts or the facts I present, tell me why they're incorrect. If you don't like my interpretation of the facts, again, tell me why they're incorrect. If you can't do either of those things,
this person,
then you're just saying you don't like the reality of the situation. And I get that. I really do. It's a bad situation.
There's a lot not to like.
I don't like the reality of the situation. Right. But don't blame me if you don't like the reality of the situation. I'm just the narrator. I didn't make it. I'm just trying to explain what's happening, why I think it's happening. Yeah. I didn't invent it. And just for the record, because apparently I haven't said this enough, yes, the invasion of Ukraine is a horrible tragedy. It's a horrible tragedy on both sides. For the Russian soldiers that have to go there that are getting killed, for the Ukrainians that are fighting, or civilians getting killed, houses getting bombed. I have Ukrainian friends that have been directly implicated, and it's horrible for them. And yes, Putin is probably a very bad man, but I think countries should be able to decide whether or not they want to be part of NATO or any other organization. I also think unicorns are real and that I have Jedi powers.
I knew it.
But nobody in the real world believes those things exist.
Right.
And if you do, you're being naive. People say, Ukraine should have sure. In a fantasy world, or smaller countries don't get pushed around by bigger countries all the time. But in the real world, they do. And in the real world, the only time you hear any politician of a major power say that smaller countries should be able to do whatever the fuck they want is when they're on the side of a particular smaller country that's getting pushed around by a different major power. Right. When they want to push around a smaller country, like the US does all the time. The example I keep using, I've talked about on the show, but in 2022, when in the early stages of the Ukraine situation, the Solomon Islands indicated they were going to allow China to build a base on their islands. Right. And the US threatened to invade them if they allowed it. At the same time, they were saying Ukraine should have the right to decide whether or not it wants to join NATO. The Solomon Islands apparently didn't have the right to decide whether or not it could allow China to build a base on it in the middle of the Pacific.
So you do understand. Okay, well that's settled. Yeah, no, just it's our way. So and for those of you out there, Cam certainly does not worship Putin. He's too busy worshiping me. So I hope that clears everything up. No, but no.
I'm a Ray
Right.
apologist.
No, but seriously, if someone takes, and I'm being serious here because you see this kind of stuff all the time. If I have a school of thought and somebody agrees with 95% of it, and there or whatever, most of it, and there's one part that they don't because their opinion or their point of view or their worldview or whatever differs. It doesn't mean that we don't agree on a lot of things, or it doesn't suddenly invalidate the majority of what I think that you agree with or that you like. You see this kind of thing all the time. It's like some people get so caught up in everything has to be perfect. Everything has to align with what they think, that for them it's black and white. And as we've proven a gazillion times, which is a number during these podcasts, life is mostly gray, shades of gray, not too many blacks and whites. And it's all relative to your location, those around you, the resources, your history, and your relations with other nations. It's very complicated. Quit trying to simplify it in so many ways, and don't accept one example and, like you just said, and not accept the other. It's just, that's not the way the world works. And I'm off my soapbox now. It just drives me crazy when everybody wants everything to conform to the way they see the world.
Didn't understand anything you just said, but okay.
But you worship me, so
the bottom line with the Putin-Ukraine thing that I've been trying to communicate to people for the last couple of years, and apparently I'm doing a bad job because they're not getting it still, is the leaders in the West knew that Ukraine in NATO was the reddest of red lines for not just Putin, but everyone in Russia. They saw it as an existential threat.
Right.
Whether or not you believe Ukraine should be able to do that or not, point is, Russians felt very, very threatened by the idea of enemy bases on their border in Ukraine.
Wouldn't?
And even and everyone in senior political military circles in the West knew that if that were to happen, and by NATO bases, I mean, even if it's NATO light, even if you're putting military bases or weapons and troops, etc., that even if Ukraine isn't officially yet part of NATO, but you're putting enemy bases on the border and in advanced preparation for that, that's going to be an issue. It's a security issue for Russia. And I kept saying in this Reddit thread where people were getting stuck into me, but Joe Biden's director of the CIA, Bill Burns himself, had been saying for decades, because he was a diplomat, US diplomat in Russia before he ended up as the director of the CIA. We have memos that WikiLeaks leaked, memos that he wrote back to people like Condoleezza Rice in the 2000s, saying that from all of the discussions that he'd had with all sorts of people in Russia over many, many years, Ukraine, NATO, reddest of red lines that they absolutely saw as an existential threat and would not tolerate. So everyone knew that, and yet they pushed Ukraine into that direction anyway. And eventually, Russia did what everyone knew it was going to do. It pushed back. So I'm not saying it's good or bad. They should, they shouldn't, whatever. I'm saying that everyone knew that would happen, that 1 + 1 was going to equal 2, but they kept adding 1 to 1 anyway. And so the chips fell where they knew they were going to fall. Why they did that, what their motivations were for doing that, what their incentives were for doing that, whether or not it was good or bad for the Ukrainian people in the end run, not for me to say.
Well, and I think you've probably brought this up before, if I can't remember specifically, but I'm sure you would have. The Cuban Missile Crisis. They were going to put some nukes right off the American coast, and the United States went ape shit. We were ready to go crazy, so it's the same thing. But again, a lot of people view it differently when it's happening to others versus happening to them. But yeah, I mean, it's common sense. Nobody wants to feel vulnerable. Nobody wants to be vulnerable. And if you can do something about it, you're probably going to. And that's Russia, through Putin's eyes, defending his interests, which is what his job is to do.
Which leads us into today's topic, which is the bombing of Iran by the United States and Israel in recent weeks. So, as everyone knows, the US is back at it again, preemptively dropping bombs on a country in the Middle East. And there's a lot of froth and bubble about it in the media. And as usual, I think a lot of it misses the point, deliberately or just subconsciously. So I wanted to strip it down to the bare bones of what's happening and why it's happening. And we've talked about Iran lots of times on this show over the years, and of course we did a big series on our Cold War show about the overthrow of Mossadegh in 1953 by the CIA, and how that, in large part, informs how Iran feels about the United States and the United Kingdom. And I've got Iranian friends that having dinner with tomorrow night again, actually, where we talk about this sort of stuff a lot.
Right.
But I think when when this sort of stuff happens, it's good to have a framework for trying to break down what's going on and why it's going on. You can use any number of different frameworks. You can use the 5 W's and H. You can use some other kind of heuristic. But you can use qui bono to start off with, follow the money. Who's profiting out of this? That's always a good place to start. So we'll touch on a few of those things as we go. But I wanted to start by the first thing that jumped out to me over the last sort of 3 weeks since Israel attacked Iran is the tone of the coverage. When I read the New York Times or the BBC or the Guardian or the ABC in Australia, looking at the tone and how it differs from the tone of the stories that we were reading back in 2022 when Russia attacked Ukraine. Ray, let's test. I know you're getting on in years. You're quite elderly, and your memory isn't what it once was, and it was never that good.
Not to start, no.
If there's one word that you would associate with the media coverage of Russia's attacks on Ukraine in 2022, what would be the one word that comes to mind?
I don't know. What? Something like skewed, savage, intense, over the top. Something more tonal than anything else.
Not the word that I was looking
No, I'm
for.
sure. I'm sure.
Anyway, you want to phone a friend?
I don't have any. I don't have. Shouldn't have to say this.
Just call me.
Hello, Cam. Yeah,
Call me.
I got this.
Who's this?
I called on the Ray line. You should know who this is. This is Doctor. Anyway, no, I got this guy asking me questions.
The Ray phone.
I'm going to take the 2 phones. Watch this. This is a visual thing. I'm going to take the 2 phones and I'm going to turn them this way. And if y'all could talk to each other and leave me out of it, that'd be great. Thank you.
That was like us in Vegas, wasn't it? It was like that. Yeah.
We promise not to mention.
What you did to me, you went, hey, just this?
Yeah. It'll be over before you know it.
And the word I was looking for was unprovoked, Ray.
Oh,
and
I was going with the
unprovoked.
intensity. Okay. Yeah. These innocent. Yeah. Go ahead.
Every story that I read back in 2022 about Russia and Ukraine used the word unprovoked. It was the word du jour. Every article needed to have the word unprovoked in it. So like somebody had come down from on high and said, if you're going to do a story about this, you have to use the word unprovoked. Because it was provoked, but we don't want people thinking about the fact that it was provoked, so we have to say it was unprovoked. Right. So we had to drive that home. In the coverage of Israel and the United States' attacks on Iran, I use a site called mediacloud.org, which enables you to pick news organizations that you want to analyze, and then you can search through their content looking for words or phrases or things like that. I went back and I looked at the first 3 weeks of coverage from the New York Times, the BBC, the ABC, and the Guardian about the Ukraine attack.
Right.
And I looked for the words unprovoked and Ukraine. And I came up with over 300 stories in the first 3 weeks between those 4 news organizations that had the word unprovoked in it.
Coincidence? No? Maybe? No? Okay.
Then I looked at the same 4 sources for the last 3 weeks with the Iran attacks, and looked for the words Iran and unprovoked. I found 4 stories. One was by an opinion columnist in the New York Times. One was quoting Vladimir Putin. One was quoting the Iranian foreign minister. And one was quoting the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Right.
So essentially, outside of Putin, Iran, and Pakistan, and one lone opinion columnist in the New York Times, no journalists are using the word unprovoked when it comes to the attacks on Iran.
Right.
Now, I get there's a big difference between a land invasion and surgical strikes. I get that. But still, it's the propagandistic aspect of the media coverage and how it differs from when they do it and we do it. When they do it, it's unprovoked, and we want to make sure that you understand it's unprovoked.
Right.
When we do it, even when it's unprovoked, we're not going to say it's unprovoked.
No.
We're going to go to great lengths to support it, even if, it's fascinating. Like, even though the New York Times, generally speaking, is very negative in its coverage of Trump and the Trump administration, as soon as he started bombing Iran, there were stories that were like, well, say what you want about Trump, but at least he's doing something about Iran. This is good. He's bombing Iran. Like, at least he's doing one good thing.
Like it's a problem.
And some of the coverage is like, well, this may have blowback effects. We may be getting into a war. He said he wasn't going to start any shit, and now he's starting shit. Another promise broken, etc., etc. But generally a tone of approval from the New York Times for bombing
admiration Iran. Almost is grudging respect, if you will. Well, at least he's doing something about it. I mean, God damn, someone's got to do something. What I want to ask is, when your allies start some shit and then you're eventually going to jump in, you can't use unprovoked because, like you said, it would make us look bad. Maybe the words preemptive. It's still a potential emergency that someone, gosh darn it, needs to do something about it. And thank God Israel had the guts to do it. We should join in. I mean, but again, it's all about, and we've seen this a billion times, it's all about the point of view, the tone. You literally make a title to make the reader think a certain way. And they've perfected it over the years.
Well, you've made an excellent point. That's the word that they use instead of unprovoked. It's preemptive, which is pretty much means the same thing. All right?
Yes. Yeah.
In both cases, you actually haven't done anything yet to us.
He hit me. Right.
So it's a synonym for unprovoked in a way, preemptive, but it sounds, it carries the assumption that you were going to do
any
something.
Day now.
So you were a potential threat, so we needed to act. It was preemptive. You were going to empt, and we had to preempt.
I had to pre or empt. You're welcome, America.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Get ahead of the empt.
Yes.
There.
Always be pre and never post empt. I cannot stress that enough.